This story is related to a cursed village and a tree of death. On the dark borders of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, there existed a village known as Banpura. On a map, it looked like any other ordinary settlement, but in reality, it was nothing less than a gateway to hell. At the very edge of the village stood a massive, gnarled peepal tree, which the locals called the Hanging Tree. 100 years ago, a cruel landlord had executed an innocent family on this very tree based on false accusations. As she took her final breath, the matriarch of that family, an old woman with eyes full of blood, placed a curse on the land. Every night in Banpura would echo with screams, and any new blood that stepped into the village would never leave alive. Over the decades, Banpura became famous as a cursed village. People avoided even looking in its direction during the day. However, 4 friends from the city, Aryan, Samir, Neha, and Tanya, who called themselves paranormal investigators, arrived at Banpura to debunk the legends. They were armed with high-tech cameras, EMF sensors, and digital recorders. They believed it was all just superstition, unaware that they were walking straight into the jaws of death. It was around 5 in the evening when their SUV stopped at the outskirts of the village. As soon as Aryan opened the door, a strange, sickening smell of decay hit his nostrils. The streets were deserted. Every house was sealed with heavy iron chains and rusted locks. Windows were covered with thick black cloth. Samir, cleaning his camera lens, whispered, "Guys, the vibe here is seriously messed up. I feel like 1,000 eyes are watching us from behind those walls." Suddenly, an old man with one milky white eye and tattered clothes approached them. In a trembling voice, he warned, "Son, there is still time. Turn back. The very air of this night demands blood. Do not go near the peepal tree. It never sleeps." Aryan laughed it off, confident in his gadgets, and the old man disappeared into the shadows, muttering, "Machines don't catch souls. They only witness the end." By 10 p.m., the 4 friends set up camp inside a massive abandoned haveli in the center of the village. The rooms were thick with dust, and the sound of bats flapping against the high ceilings filled the air. Neha turned on her EMF meter. Suddenly, the lights on the device began to flash violently, and it emitted a piercing, continuous beep. "Something is here," Neha's voice cracked. Tanya shone her flashlight into a corner, revealing a small doll. To her horror, the doll's eyes were moving, tracking her every step. As Tanya leaned down to pick it up, the heavy wooden door of the haveli slammed shut with a deafening thud. The temperature in the room plummeted so sharply that their breath turned into visible mist. Samir hit the record button and asked into the darkness, "Is anyone here? We don't mean any harm." A deep, distorted voice echoed through the room, sounding like hundreds of people speaking at once. "Harm? What harm can you do? You already stole our breath a century ago." Blood began to seep from the very cracks in the walls. "Everyone, get out, now!" Aryan screamed. They rushed to the door, but it felt as solid as a stone wall. Suddenly, Tanya shrieked. They turned to see her suspended 5 feet in the air, her neck constricted as if by an invisible noose. Her face was turning blue, and her eyes were bulging out of their sockets. Samir grabbed an axe and swung it at the door, but instead of the sound of wood splintering, it sounded like a blade cutting through raw meat, and warm blood sprayed across his face. Aryan quickly pulled a bottle of holy water from his pocket and threw it into the air. A blood-curdling scream filled the mansion, and Tanya crashed to the floor, unconscious. "We have to reach the people tree. That's the center of it all," Aryan panted. They smashed a window and ran toward the forest where the great people tree stood. Under the pale moonlight, the tree looked like a gargantuan demon. Its long hanging roots swayed in the wind like empty nooses. When they reached the base, they saw 4 nooses already hanging there, swaying gently. Beneath each noose, their names were carved in the bark. Samir's face turned white. How is this possible? The ground beneath them began to crack open. Rotting hands clawed their way out of the earth. The villagers murdered by the landlord a century ago were rising, skeletal remains covered in tattered skin, with black voids where their eyes should have been. From the center of the mob, the old woman who had cast the curse floated towards them. Her long black tongue hung from her mouth. She whispered, "For 100 years we have been thirsty. Tonight, 4 new nooses will be filled." As a root from the tree snared Samir's leg and began to drag him upward, Aryan remembered the old man's words. "It demands blood." In a desperate move, Aryan sliced his own palm with a knife and let his blood drip onto the roots of the tree. As the blood hit the soil, a spiritual explosion rocked the forest, and the spirits recoiled in agony. "Run!" Aryan yelled. They managed to free Samir and scrambled into their car, the sounds of 1,000 vengeful screams fading behind them. When they reached the safety of the city and looked at themselves in the morning light, the horror remained. The black finger marks on Tanya's neck never faded. Samir never spoke another word for the rest of his life. And Aryan, every time he looked in a mirror, he saw the reflection of the old woman standing directly behind him. Banpura still exists, but if you go there today, you will find only a barren wasteland. The mansion and the tree have vanished, leaving behind only thousands of bleached bones, scattered in the dust.